Hi guys, welcome to another episode of SCN. On today's show, we're going to be talking about image versus imagination, and we're joined in studio by the legendary Mr. Jim Miller. And to end off with, as always, we've got some insightful videos highlighting image versus imagination, so stick around for those. Jim, thanks very much for joining us this morning.
It's a pleasure, Nick.
Jim's the Managing Director of Financial Fitness, a company that likes to only focus on wealth. And Jim is an anti-new car buyer, and for obvious reasons, but he's going to explain a little bit more about what image versus imagination means. Jim?
Okay, Nick, one of the things I wanted to do is buy a convertible sports car, and talking to you, you've been saying Audi TT, and I said the Mazda MX-5, and you said, well, you know, it's going to look like a hairdresser. But basically, I'm saying it's a great car for a very good price and a great drive, you know, so why would I not buy that?
It certainly does tick all the boxes, and I mean, we do have this argument on a regular basis, and maybe I am too image conscious even in terms of my advice. Jim's a lot more practical in looking for cars that require a little bit of imagination to find, but give you a whole lot more value. And I think the MX-5 versus the Audi TT is a good example of that. I mean, you've done your homework on the car. Tell me about the MX-5. I mean, I know all about the Audi TT.
Well, the MX-5, if you listen to some of the car testers, they'll say it's the greatest drive, the most fun, you know, beyond the original British sports car that it was based on. So, you know, it's just a great little motor car.
Good value for money, and I've got to tell you, time and time again, the MX-5 has been car of the year in America, so sometimes those Americans know more than we have them believe. But in terms of that, we've talked about the MX-5 versus the Audi TT. What are some other examples that you could cite?
Well, everyone wants to drive a BMW.
The South African syndrome.
You know, so like you take a 3 Series 320 or 325 against the Lexus IS 250. You know, the Lexus is going to be a lot better value for money. Great drive, very, very comfortable, and you know, really, don't see why people want to spend all that extra money.
That's very true, and we've talked about Lexus before on the show. When it comes to value for money, the Lexus comes fully equipped. You've got navigation, you've got rear camera. BMWs also come nicely equipped, but not to that same level. And again, you can buy a 2-year-old Lexus, I'm guessing, versus a 3 or 4-year-old 3 Series BMW for exactly the same money. You're going to get it to drive it for a longer period. They do come with the same kind of service plans, so that bit of imagination really does pay dividends. So that's money well spent and money well saved. In terms of the SUV market, have you got any recommendations there?
Well, you know, everyone wants to drive a Toyota, don't they? So in the SUV, Prado is the car people are going for. But in the used market, I think a Subaru Outlander is great value for money. Will give you all the space as per the Prado,
true.
For a lot less money.
Also very true, and Subaru is one of those undiscovered brands, so to speak. They don't have the same footprint that Toyota do in terms of its serviceability across the country, but in terms of value for money, NCAP rated, property safety rated, very popular in Europe. So the Subaru is definitely a car worth looking at, and when it comes to imagination versus image, that's a prime example of great value for money in a used car, and again, used cars only. We're not talking about new cars here, guys. You know, the new car pricing tends to be very similar, Subaru, and even if you look at what the cost of the Prado is, they're not that far apart. But in a used car, the Subaru is probably 30% cheaper than a Prado of the same kind of year and mileage, I guess.
Probably.
Guys, thanks, Jim. Firstly, that's some great advice. Wise words indeed from a man who's got a combination of imagination and image in his garage. That's why the Q5 over the iX35, I'm sure.
You got me there.
Now, guys, have a look at some of these videos on cars we're talking about that will better explain image versus imagination. Just goes to show image isn't everything. Jim, thanks very much for joining us this morning.
It's a pleasure, Nick.
We're going to get Jim back on a regular basis with more wise words of wisdom. Thanks for watching, guys, and don't forget to check out the original video on the links below. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, subscribe if you haven't already. I've been Nick, it's been real, we'll see you soon.
Surf4Cars. C-O-Z-A.